Northern groups have pledged their support for President Bola Tinubu in 2027. Their support is based on perceived developmental strides by the Tinubu administration, particularly northern regions. One of such northern groups is the Northern Bridge Builders Forum, a coalition of respected leaders from the 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory. The group has thrown its weight behind the president, this administration, and also endorsed him for a second term in 2027. The forum also commended his sweeping reforms in security, the economy, local government autonomy, and national unity. Tonight, let's speak with an executive of the group, Senator Binta Masi Garba. She's a media and publicity secretary of Northern Bridge Builders Forum. Good evening to you, Senator. Thank you very much for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
Good evening. Thank you so much. So your group has endorsed Mr. President for a second term, and I want to believe that this endorsement suggests an effort to consolidate regional support for this administration, ensure continued federal attention to critical issues like insecurity, economic hardship, youth unemployment, and also present a united Northern Front in national politics, especially with lingering security concerns. So let's start with these. Who are the key members of this group? What are their backgrounds and why this early?
Why this early is just a midterm of Mr. President. Obviously, in the next couple of months, the drum will start drumming for 2027. And we felt as Northerners drawn from the 19 states that makes up the three geopolitical zones in Nigeria, Northwest, Northeast, and North Central, we felt that it is time for us to see, instead of standing on the bench or the fence, we need to come together, distinguished men and women of proven integrity and personalities. Among us are members of former House of Rep, members of the Senate, non-serving and serving, members of men who were former ministers and men who were in the military. And we sat down to now look at which is the way forward as Northern Nigerians, and how do we analyze. We analyzed the activities of the president, and we've now come to know that Mr. President is taking the right stride, doing the right thing. Definitely, a lot of people will not be comfortable with some of the reforms, and that's why it's called reform. You need to reform Nigerian economy. You need to reform this Nigerian security apparatus and everything. So obviously, reform comes with its own pains. By the end of the day, is the gain that we looked at. So when we looked at all these activities of the president of Nigeria, we felt that 4 years is not enough for him to continue the reform, but be as it may, we need to rally around with him to see how he can get his second term, so that Nigerians will indeed be happy that the reform has really transformed the image of Nigeria internationally, the economic image of Nigeria too, and again, the insecurity that is within our country. So obviously, 2 years or 4 years is not enough for us to see those reforms being materialized. But as it is, we've started seeing some livelihood in some of this reform. So it's just for Nigerians to
I get that,
be
Senator.
patient enough.
So, we'll talk about Mr. President in a minute and how impressed the group is. But I'm sure many Nigerians are hearing about this group for the first time. So talk to us about this group. What is the primary mission of the NBBF, and how has it evolved over time?
Just like what I said earlier on, it's just a coalition of distinguished personalities in the northern Nigeria, the 19 states that makes up the northern Nigeria, who were once elected and once appointed, and once again have been in the battlefront fighting for the unity of this country. Coming together, you have retired generals, retired rear admirals, former ministers, members of the Senate, non-serving, and some and some members too that are in this administration of Mr. President, to now see which way forward for the northern Nigeria. And with the agitations here and there, how do we that have been in the circle of governance and we have started seeing what this present administration is doing, and now we now have to collate it and now put it on a scale of preference and to now say, yes, reform doesn't come easy. But at least if we start seeing the little light in the tunnel, then obviously that will give us a comfort that soon and very soon this gentleman will take us to the promised land.
Absolutely. So what I mean is, how does the forum engage with communities across the 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory?
Yeah, because with the Federal Capital, that makes it about 20 years. Like I told you, I'm from Adamawa State. The convener is from Taraba State. We have non-serving senators from Gombe State. We have other personalities, non-serving members from Kaduna State, from Bauchi State, and from Kebbi State. All what we're doing now is there are most northerners that are standing on the fence to now see what is happening. So those are the kind of people we are launching into them to now say, hey, reformation from day one does not come easy. But let's look at it the way it is going. How will you now look for a man that has been in government in office for 2 years and has virtually paid almost $10 billion as part of the funds, for debt repayment? Then I look at, even before now, the issue of insecurity was coming up. People are saying, we're hungry, we're hungry. Now he has taken another measure, trying to see that if you are bringing in food into this country, that will now bring succor to the Nigerian, the common Nigerian. Initially, a bag of rice was almost 120,000. Now, how much is the bag of rice? Those are the kind of reformation we are looking at, and we believe that it will allow him for a while. Because most of us that voted for him, we saw what he did in Lagos. And we believe that probably he might do the same. When he came in on board in 1999, that was one of the things we looked at. As a governor of Lagos, before and now, there's a total reformation in Lagos State. Their IGR has gone beyond measure. So now, if there was a magic done in a state that has over 30 million Nigerians living in that state, then definitely, if we give him a chance, he might do better off than what he did in Lagos. And obviously, when you want to come with reform, a lot of people will go against it. But at the end of the day, at the long run, it will be beneficiary not only to us as citizens, but will lift the standard of Nigeria. All right.
I know you and other members of the group have cited Mr. President's visionary leadership and courage in initiating necessary reforms. But what aspect or what specific aspect of President Tinubu's vision for Nigeria resonates with the Northern Bridge Builders Forum's goals?
We have this issue of education. Our educational system in northern Nigeria is nothing to write home about. If you remember, about 3 or 4 days ago, the Ministry of Education came out with another format trying to catch the younger Nigeria who were not able to go to school, but who doesn't even have the means to go to school, by coming up through the federal colleges of vocational colleges of education. They came out with a technical vocational education center where they have to train, if you have the informal sector of youth who have stopped school beyond the primary school, to now give them a kind of a knowledge on the entrepreneurial aspect of it, so that they can be trained for 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. So at the end of the day, they are not only trained, the school will be free, they will be paid its stipends, I think in a month, monthly, and at the end of their, the training on the skill acquisition and entrepreneur, such people will be kitted with some starter kits, and they will now be left to go into with certified certificates, not only in Nigeria, but will be recognized globally. That, and you are talking about 5 million youth, and you have about 33 of such federal colleges of vocational centers that the federal government is having. And if you are talking about 5 million Nigerians, youth, that government will now want to pick from the unemployed sector, train them, and not only leaving them after the training, but are giving them a starter pack with some certain funds for them to start a livelihood on that. I think that, to me, is one of the greatest achievements of this administration, attending the northern Nigeria. Because you have 33 of such institutions, vocational training center, federal, that is being run by the Federal Ministry of Education. If such thing, I have one in my local government, so I know what I'm talking about.
Right. I mean, you just talked
talk about that educational angle.
So apart from the educational sector, there are other critical sectors: security, economic growth, and infrastructure. And I'm asking this question because I see that your group is also advocating for the continuation of its policies to sustain recent security and economic improvements. So talk to us.
Yeah, on the economic angle of it, like I said earlier on, we're shocked to hear when we had the summit that this federal government has paid a debt, reduced our debt load by $10 billion. And people are shouting about, no, he came in and removed the fuel subsidy. But now we've started seeing what is the benefit of the fuel subsidy to Nigerians. For us to be weighed down less by 10 billion on the foreign, on our debt, on our debt that is hanging on our neck. I think we should applaud the president for doing that. And secondly, again, on the economy, if you looked at the naira to the dollar, it has been stable for a while. That should show that there is a kind of an improvement in our economic sector, and that we have to give it to the president. He's not sleeping. It's a Herculean tax on that. On the security angle, I'm from Adamawa State. My senatorial constituency was ravaged by the Boko Haram. We're being laid off of whatever. But of recent, we've seen a stable peace in that area, apart from those ones that are coming here and there. But the people have gone back to their local government. They've gone back to their to their agricultural activities and what have you. But a lot of people will be shouting, no, things are not working the way it is. That is why it is called reform. It's like you, when a woman is pregnant, you are happy that your wife is pregnant. But the first 3 months, okay. But when she entered her third trimester, obviously she started having some certain backache or whatever and going to push for the baby to come out. And that's when prayers will be made for such a person, so that mother and child will be saved and well and will be okay. So what we're saying is that reform doesn't come cheaply. It comes with sacrifices, and it comes with some certain pains. And I'm happy with what the president said. He knows the pains Nigerians are going, but at the end of it all, it will surely come to pass that this administration has done well for the future Nigerians.
But how does the Tinubu administration support women's empowerment in the North? And what role does the forum play in advancing this cause?
We are all politicians, like I said earlier on, and we've gone. I have to digress. A lot of people might be thinking otherwise, but as a Northerners and with what we've been hearing, people are saying, indeed, some people are not happy, and indeed, some people are happy. You can't take it away. You can't have it all. When some of them were in government, some people are not happy. Now they are out of government, some people are happy. So you can't take it away from that. But when it comes to women emancipation in politics, on this I will say, if you look at the women that are on board, have we met what we're looking for? I will say yes, and I will say no. But when you cumulate all the women in this administration, from the ministers to those that are heading agencies and whatever, I think the president has done well on that.
So the second part of that question is, what role does the forum play in advancing this cause?
We're talking to people. We've been going around, meeting other friends of ours, like minds, rubbing minds, those that are even on the opposition side. We're talking to them, and some of them are coming down, realizing and saying, one of the biggest achievements that I think that has doused the tension here was the summit that was done a couple of days back, where most of the government, the head of agencies or ministers have come in to tell us what they were able to achieve within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So to me, I would say we have done, the president has done well, but obviously, like one will say, we want to see more. And like I told somebody, it is easier to destroy than to build. And if you looked at it before May 29, 1999 till date, tell me any administrations that have been in power and that does not have opposition based on some of the policies and reforms that administration was taking or had carried out. When General Olusegun Obasanjo came on board, a lot of people from northern Nigeria were not comfortable with it. After Obasanjo left, of blessed memory, was Yar'Adua. Unfortunately, God has to take him away from us. Then Jonathan came on board. There was this agitation that Jonathan couldn't do it more. And it came down to the north. Again, the same agitation that Buhari didn't do it. He doesn't know how to do it. Now this gentleman is on board, the president, Tinubu. Now they are saying that, no, he's worst off. The thing is that something is wrong with the system. And until we look at what is wrong with the system and we try to diagnose it, that means 1999 to 2007, the diagnostic experience carried by that administration was not good enough for the country. I remember when I was in the House of Representatives, a lot of people now tagged the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, as a man that travels like a bird in the air. But at the end of the day, towards the tail end, we saw what his traveling brought to the table of Nigerian government, people. That is the debt that has been waved away from us. But now when President Jonathan came in, the former president, the same issue, no, the man doesn't know he doesn't know his left from his right. Now the man is out of the system. They say, no, he's better off than Buhari, is worse than Jonathan. So the thing is that all the angle is Nigeria is sick, in need of a restitution. But every administration that comes in, they will not allow the person to diagnose that issue or the problem so that they cannot come out with a holistic treatment. Now, this man came in and met a battered economy, a battered administration, and is trying to put it in places, and they will not even give him a piece for him to finish whatever he's doing. So does it mean that if you are not the person on the table or in the helms of affairs of this country, then that person that is saddled with the responsibility of taking Nigeria forward doesn't know what to do?
All right.
Something is wrong with us.
All right, Senator, you've made a valid point, but let's stay on security and governance. I want to get the perspective of the forum on the proposed establishment of armed forest guards to combat insecurity.
Yeah.
So how far do you think this would go in keeping the country safe? Would this be
No, it will go a long way, because if you remember some times ago, I can't remember, but I think that was credited to the former governor of Kaduna State. I hope I can deduct it when he was saddled with that responsibility and say, why don't they burn the forest down? But now burning the forest again will not be advantageous to us as Nigerians. Okay. Because of because of the environmental degradations that it will cause. But again, with this armed guard, being focused. If it is assented into law, then obviously the issue of insecurity will be reduced to the barest minimum. And let's come to this insecurity. Look at the areas where we're having this insecurity. It's mostly within a kind of bordering town between Nigeria and Cameroon. If you look at Adamawa State, Borno State, Taraba State, and partly Benue are having a kind of they are bordering communities with Cameroon. Now, when you look at Chad, you look at Borno, you look at Yobe, bordering Chad. Then when you now come to the northwestern part of Nigeria, that are bordering, a country with Niger. You look at Zamfara, look at Sokoto, you look at Kebbi, and partly Katsina. So you have 4 states that are having border lineage with Niger. Then when you come down to maybe again northern central, you look at, I think Kwara is having a border with Benin Republic. So most of all these insecurities that we're having that has to do within the bordering communities or areas in Nigeria. And when you look at it globally, wherever you have a bordering connectivity, you always have issues.
All right.
So the issues now is that the government, when it comes to security, the government cannot come out and open all his houses outside before the people and said, this is what we're doing. It has to do with intelligent gathering and all this. And we need to accord even the NSA. This present, the NSA does Malan Nuhu Ribadu of what he has done.
All
the
right.
other time he dissected all what they are doing and all this kind of a thing. So on this, okay, sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Because
okay.
First,
so if you look at the Bridge Builders Forum, we're trying to look at all this. We that were affected of this unleashment on the Boko Haram, the banditries and whatever, we felt that, look, there is a light in the tunnel. So why don't we give this give this gentleman the element of doubt for him to do more on that. But on security, apart from what is rearing its ugly head some couple of months ago, we had relative peace for the past 1 year and so on the issue of banditry. And,
the president just made that announcement, but Forest Security Service is seeking adoption as National Armed Forest Guard. The leadership of the service has just called for the adoption of NFSS as National Armed Forest Guard being proposed by the federal government. There are some Nigerians who also think that with over 50,000 trained personnel over the years with structures and tentacles within communities, the agency could fill in the gap to protect the nation's forest from criminal activities. Now, instead of starting from the scratch, do you agree that the federal government should make NFSS the nucleus of this proposed agenda?
I wouldn't know on that, but we need more personnel in the security angle in this country. We are over 200 million Nigerians. And when you compare all the security apparatus in this country, how many are they in totals? And I just told you about almost 20 states within Nigeria are sharing borders with other countries. So now we are now talking about how do we help those military guys or the security guys that are overburdened with security activities. I can tell you, well, because I grew up in the barracks, so I know to a large extent what I'm talking about. But the security guard, armed security, the forest guard is of necessity.
All right.
We need to have more of that. If you look at what the states are asking for, state policing, or you're now empowering even the, the local security guard somewhere. Now in the northern Nigeria, we call them Dambangas, those that are the hunters, that can now go into those areas to see how they can now protect the people. Now, if you bring all those hunters in, and you bring all those other people, that you make up the armed guard, that will go into the forestry, it will go a long way. So we need more people, more of Nigerians to be recruited in that, so that we can have relative peace, and this country will move forward, financially.
I mean, still on that, so what additional measures does the forum recommend to enhance security and governance in the northern region?
You know, if you look at some time ago, the state governments were agitating for state policing. But to me, I would have preferred the armed guard, forestry guard, than the state policing. Because virtually, if you look, like I have to go back to what I have said earlier on, but we are, as a forum, we are now looking at means and ways to now encourage the president that what you're doing is you are taking the right step in the right direction, despite the fact a lot of people are not comfortable with you. But at the end of the day, he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. Some of us that have been saddled with the mayhem done on our constituencies, our local government, we're comfortable and happy that this administration is doing what it's supposed to do in terms of that. So we are collaborating with a lot of our people, looking for stakeholders that will come together, so that those challenges that is on ground, we need one, whether we like it or not, we need to pray for our government, or the people that are saddled with the responsibility of governance. Because when you have the right people in the right place, then definitely a lot of things will do. So the time we will take in aspiring issues that does not bring anything comfortable to the table, why don't we now restore back unto God and now pray to God, unto Almighty, to take control of our country, and to now allow the government of the day
Senator,
the respite, so that they can do what is expected of them to do.
I mean, after all, prayer is the key.